that we just looked at was module 8.1. all right, defining a class. Now the module that we're going to move into will be module 8.1.1, which is class inheritance, and you can read more about class inheritance from this link on tutorials point. It's a very, very powerful link. I really liked it. It inspired a lot of the content for this particular lecture. So guys, check out tutorial point, bookmark them, follow them, subscribe to them. Very great content. So we've seen a class, we've seen an object, an instance of a class. Now what is the idea of inheritance? All right, so think about it. You have a child can inherit from a parent. Just forget about programming for now. Let's just step outside and think of a child. All right, so you have a child and you have a parent. What can the child inherit from the parent? All right, a child can inherit like say the house, their color, money, you know, different things, height, right, genius level, many things, right? Oh, IQ is a genius level, IQ, many things a child can inherit from their parents. So if a parent has a house, you can naturally say, if the child inherits a house with the parents, therefore that house is the child's house, right? You can just simply associate that house to the child, and that is inheritance. All right, so that's how we kind of think about inheritance in the real world. Now, how can we think about inheritance within programming? It's simply saying that if you have a class, and we saw classes in the previous concept, creating a class. If you have a class and the class has a set of attributes or it has a set of methods, and you have another class that claims to inherit from that previous class, then all those methods and those attributes follow along to the new class. That's inheritance, pure and simple. So let's actually do it using the parents of a child and the example of a child and their parent. So first of all, let's start with the parents, right? Because that's where we have to start. So we have a class called parents. So we're going to just simply create a new class called parents. All right. And we're going to give them the parent name. All right. Let's call that mother, right? I can give any parent name that you want. And I'm going to define a couple of our functions in here. So this is print, just bear with me. I'm going to try to get this all really quick. So this is a constructor. I haven't spoken much about this, but just make sure that we have this in the code. So we're gonna initialize that's a constructor for that method, for that class, sorry. And then we're gonna have a couple of methods here. So def, we'll call it parent method. So we're gonna define a couple of methods. Again, a method is a function within a class. So all of what I'm doing here is I'm just creating a couple of functions, but those functions are basically within a class. So I'll call this calling parent method. So this init is just it's just a method that has to be in any class to initialize a class. All right, and then now I'm defining a new method in here called parent method. Every method needs to have a self and then the other parameters, but this has no other parameter. So I'm just gonna say each time we call this method, it's gonna print calling parent method. That's basically what we're trying to do there. All right, and then how about we define a couple of other methods here? Say set name. All right, and this method now is gonna take a value called name. All right, so if you think about the function that takes in a parameter, this method set name, in addition to self, that's why self is a different color, is gonna take this parameter called name. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna say parents, right? Because we're doing parent name. I think did I call it parent or parents? Let's actually just call that parent so that we can resolve this. So parents dot parent name. Oh, I can type correctly. Parent dot parent name. All right, equals to name. So we have this variable here called parent name. What we're saying is that in this particular method is that whatever you give me, I'm going to take whatever you give me, which is this value here, and I'm going to make it to be this parent name. So it's going to replace whatever I've set here as a parent name. So that's one of the methods. All right, we're going to define another method here called get name. If we can set the name, we can get a name, and this is where you have the idea of setters and getters. So for get name, all I need to do is simply to get that name. So let's go ahead and print. Let's say parent name is, and we're gonna go ahead and print parent dot name. I don't want that. Parent name, that's what I want. All right, so this is set name is one function, or you can better word is a method. So set the name of the parent to get the name of the parent. All right, guys. So this is our parent class. So this is a class. We've seen how to create classes. We've simply created one for a parent. This class has just one attribute, which is called the parent name, and we've seen how to set the name and how to get the name of that. Now let's talk about inheritance, which is what we're talking about here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new class called child. We're gonna call that class called child. All right, we can simply just say child and do the same thing that we did here. And I'm gonna explain this a little bit better. So in itself, no problem, and we're calling the child constructor again. So we're calling the child constructor, and then we can also define the method for child. I'm gonna copy this method here and modify it here just so we have a method for child. Bear with me to format this correctly. All right, now we have a method for the child. So let's call this one the child method. So we have the child method self, and then we're gonna print calling. Of course, we're calling the child method. But you're asking, where is the inheritance? Right, the way the inheritance comes into play is we have to tell that this child class that we've just created actually comes from parent. All right, if it's like, imagine you're a child, you have to inherit something from your parent. Somebody needs to say it somewhere that this child is inheriting from the parent, right? In the Western world, you do that by legal documents. You have to go to the court and sign all of that, or your birth certificate to prove that this child is actually the birth child of that parent, or somehow. All right, in programming, in Python, the way we're going to specify that is we're going to go to the child class that we just created, and we will specify in here to say this child actually inherits from a parent. That's it. So you just go to child and you put this command, and you say, all right, these brackets, and you say, all right, parent. So it knows that this child is inheriting from the parent. All right, so whatever the parent has in true inheritance, if you inherit from your parents, all right, whatever the parents have, then the child would have it by default. That's basically what it means. So if a parent has a method called setName, the child gets that method called setName, even though the child doesn't have it in their own definition. But because they've inherited from their parents, they get it. It's like your parent has a house and you've kind of been slacking off, and at some point, you know, your parents' house become your house, even though you didn't build one yourself, but you just get it. All right, so even though this child did not go ahead and implement a method called setName, they just get it from their parents because their parents have it. That's what inheritance at the core is. All right, so let's actually see what that means. So we should go ahead and actually call those particular methods. So let's say C equals child. So we're basically instantiating this class. Very simple thing. So we're simply getting an instance, all right, of child. So C is a child, and I believe we had it as uppercase. So C is a child. Now we know that once we instantiate the class, we can access the methods within that class. All right, so we can say C dot child method. All right, so child method. That's great. All right, no problem with that, right? So there's a method here called child method, so we can access that method within the child. But watch what happens, guys, and this is where the magic of inheritance happens, where you get something even without doing anything. So let's say c.child and parent. You see, there you have it. Parent method within the child. It's possible, right? Parent method. So now we have a parent method accessible within this child object, even though there is no parent method in here. This child class doesn't have any parent method. There's no method they call parent method. But if you go up, because I've inherited from this the parent class, they have access to parent method. Guys, that's inheritance at its core. All right. So if I run this, you see it says calling child method when it calls the child method, and then parent method, it prints calling parent method once it calls the parent method. That's inheritance. That's inheritance, guys. So let's actually do some more work with this. We can say child.set name equals Fru. All right. And if I go ahead and I run this, it set the name Fru. How about we go child.getName equals, well, in getName we don't have any attributes, so getName should, since the child doesn't have a getName, it's going to inherit the name of the parent. And let's see what happens. It says parent name is Fru. So that's one of the problems with inheritance, because now I specify in here that parent name is Fru. So the beauty of this is two things. One, we see that this is actually calling the parent's method. The child doesn't have any getName method, but it's calling the parent method. And then two, we have to make the program a little bit smart to not say parent name is this when we actually might be referring to a child's name. So, but hopefully we get the idea of inheritance within our programming. So a very powerful concept, guys. Inheritance really leads you into all the other concepts that we saw, which would be talking about class, objects, method, inheritance, polymorphism, data abstractions, and encapsulation. So all of this really kind of builds some inheritance within Python. Now, this was a lot, guys. This was a lot. So let's actually switch gears here and talk about the last one concept within this particular lecture, which is the idea of importing external